All right, so today we are in topic 10, representing and interpreting data, and we're going to be in block 1. Our goals and objectives for today are to describe how to conduct a simple random sample and to sample a population and identify possible sources of bias. So today our class is going to be looking at the overview, also looking at exploring, sampling, and variability. So to get started, what I want to talk about is just an opening question for us. So I want you to think about a histogram, a dot plot, a bar graph, um, like from a newspaper or a magazine. And so, how do newspapers and like news analysts predict who will win like local, state, and national elections before they even happen? How do they predict that?
I think because of how many people are on like a side. So like, let's say a soccer team or something. If they're, I mean, like any kind of team, if there's more people on one team, then there's a better chance of them winning.
Okay. Does anybody have anything to add to that, or y'all kind of agree with what she said? So I think like going along with what she said there, I believe that makes pretty good sense to kind of determine who's going to win like governor or mayor. If you got a whole lot of people that are on this person's side compared to another person that not many people care for, more than likely the person that everybody likes is going to do what? Starts with a W. Yeah, we're gonna win. All right. So, um, how do you think they choose the people that they poll? Do you think they like actually go around and like just talk to 100 different people or something that they see in different areas, and then like ask them who they're going to vote for, and that kind of gives them an idea? Or do you think it's kind of like what we said? We just know that there's more people that like this one person than this other person. What do you think?
The second option.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, you really, it's just like obvious.
Okay.
Because you also have to think about like social media. Like
Yes.
most people post like hateful things towards the other one or things like this is why you should vote for whoever.
Okay. And so if they look at that data for the amount of people that are posting for one person compared to the other, that would be helpful. I agree with you. Do you think that they choose the people that they look at randomly, or do you think they look only in like one part of town, or do you think they try to get people from like all over, or how do you think they do that to try to see how close it's going to be? Well, like here, we have private school and we have our public schools. Do you think that the private school students are going to have the same thoughts as we do about one of our like particular groups, like to win something? Do you think that they're going to care as much or have the same thoughts as we do?
No, because they don't even go to our school. So
Exactly. So whenever you're getting a random sample, you want to take samples from all types of different people at different places so that you can get good collectible data. Because if you don't, then it's going to be what's called bias. And bias means that you only got data from people that you knew were going to think a specific way. And so that data is not true, right? it's true for that certain case. However, you corrupted it because you talked to people that only had a certain opinion instead of getting random data from everybody. All right. So today, what we're going to do is we're going to start by looking at an overview. So if you would you read this for us, please, Miss Emma?
You see graphs all the time in newspapers, on the internet, on TV, and in textbooks. Have you ever thought how the information was gathered or how the geographical display of the data was chosen? Jamie was approached by his principal with the problem. The principal was worried that the school did not have enough crossing guards in the front of the school. Students walking, riding their bikes in cars arrive in the front, while bus riders arrive in the back of the school.
Okay. So how do you think he's going to find this data to figure out if this is, a problem or not really a problem?
Talk to the students.
Okay. So let's take a look at this. What's that say, Abigail?
What does the chart thing say?
Mm-hmm.
Methods of transportation of Fisher School District students, and then it says, wait, do you want me to read that or just?
Yeah, explain it to us.
It says school bus is the blue, red means walk, the yellow means ride bike, and then the green is ride with adult.
Okay, and it says, according to this graph prepared by the school district, most students should be arriving in the back of the school on buses. But the principal was concerned that this was not happening at Jamie's school. So Jamie and the principal decided to conduct their own research. So this is the research they found, and we're going to try to figure out how they got this information. Because right now, do we know how they got their information?
No.
No. So let's see what Jamie did. What's it say Jamie did, Eli?
It says that he first had to collect data. He sat in front of the school and recorded how many students arrived by car, by bike, or on foot. Then he sat in the back of the school and recorded how many arrived by bus.
Okay. So do you think he did this all in the same day, or he did it on other days, or?
He probably did it every other day because he couldn't go. The buses would have already came when the cars came, so he would have missed the buses.
Okay, let's look at panel number 4 and see if it tells us when he was actually out there or something. Because right now, if he did that all in one day, would his data make sense or her data?
No.
No, because whenever they left one place, somebody could be coming, right? They could still be coming there by car or still be coming there by bus. Oh, it says he's a dude. So let's see what Jamie finds out. Read that for us, please, Deonti.
The stuff in blue, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Once, sorry, it's hard for me to see it. Once Jamie had his data, and he organized them. The data are categories, so he decided to try a circle graph first. By using the type of graph, he could compare his graph to the school district's graph. He found the principal was right. The results are different from what the school district's graph predicted.
All right, so this is in our workbook around page 313, and this is question 1. So I want you to pay close attention to the colors here so that you can make sure that you have yours set up exactly the same, because in your workbook it's going to be printed in black and white. I said white, black and white. And so you're going to need to reference the coloring from on here so that you can use it so you can answer question 1. So what does question 1 say in your workbook, Emma?
Evaluate the following statements as true or false. Justify your answers by using the data in the circle graphs.
All right, so what's the first one that could be true or false?
Jamie's data show that twice as many students rode bikes compared to students who rode bikes in the school district's data.
Okay. So we got the school district information. Is it on the right or the left?
The right.
Okay. And we're looking at the middle school students. So restate what you said.
The question?
Mm-hmm.
Jamie's data shows that twice as many students rode bikes compared to students who rode bikes in the school district's data.
All right. Do y'all agree or disagree with that statement? Is 10% twice as much as 5%?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So should that be true or false?
True.
Okay.
True.
Let's look at the next question. What's the next question say?
Both sets of data show that 1 out of every 4 students ride with an adult to school.
1 out of 4 students say that they ride with adults to school for both the school district and the middle school. Is that what it says, Emma?
Both sets of data, so yes.
Okay. So do you agree with that statement, Isabella?
Sorry, I was finishing my test.
Okay.
Can I read the
Jemiah,
next one?
Jemiah, do you agree with that? Or Zayden, do you agree with that statement?
No, sir.
Why? Is the school district 1/4 that rides the bike? I mean, that rides with an adult?
It's both of them.
I know, but only one of them is 1/4, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
The middle school students, 1/4 of them ride with an adult. But when you look at the school district transportation, how many percent are doing that?
12.
Only 12%. Is that 1/4?
No.
No, it's not. So would that be true or false?
False.
All right. Read the next part of that, Zayden. That's on page 313 that she's working on.
Okay. You say you wanted me to read it?
Yeah, like we just answered the second part to the true and false questions. Are there any more?
Let me see. I don't see any.
All right. Emma, are there any more left or is that all?
There's one more.
All right, cool. Well, let's keep moving. Read that for us, Zayden.
Jamie liked the circle graph, but he wanted to be able to report to the principal the actual number of students in each category, not just the percent of the whole. He decided to make a bar graph.
All right. So which one's the bar graph?
The one on the left.
Okay. Which ones are circle graphs?
The middle and the one on the right.
All right. Which one do y'all think is easier to read? Or are they both about the same?
They're both about the same.
Okay. So why do you think Jamie would choose the bar graph to present his information instead of the circle graph? What do y'all think? Why do you think Jamie would choose the bar graph to present his information?
Because whenever you look at the bar graph, like it's pretty obvious that more students ride the bus and then less students
Okay.
ride the bike.
And so, I mean, I agree with that statement. I think it's one of those deals where it's just kind of personal preference, like certain people like seeing things one way and certain people like seeing it another way. So, whatever he likes is what he's going to use, is kind of the way that I look at it. As long as it, states the correct data, does it really matter if it's a circle or if it's a bar?
No.
No, it doesn't.
No.
All right. So it says, are you beginning to see that there are a lot of steps that go into gathering data and completing a graph? Do y'all think it's a lot that goes into it? What do you have to do first?
You have to draw it, the graph.
He did have to draw the graph, but before he could draw the graph, what did he have to do?
Collect the data.
Yeah, he had to collect the data. So he had to observe all that information, then write it down. And then after he gathered the data, and then he gathered the data from the school district also. And so once he collected all that data, then he was able to do what?
Create the bar graph.
Yes. Now, did he really need the district's information?
No.
No, because all he was really concerned about was the transportation for where?
The middle school.
Correct. All right, so in this topic, we're going to learn to sample a population and organize our data and use graphs to present our point of view. So in earlier courses, we organized data using bar graphs, circle graphs, stem and leaf plots, histograms, and dot plots. But in this topic, we're going to be introduced into another way of organizing, which is called the box and whisker plot, or the box plot. So a box plot is a great way to display the shape of your data, and it can also help you analyze the spread of data in the center of the data. Box plots are very helpful for comparing two similar data sets. And so this is going to be very useful for us throughout this course. Can you read that for us, Tashandra? Help him out, Layla, the artist.
Me?
Yeah.
We collect data because we are trying to answer a question. For example, what is the most common method of getting to school? The way in which the data are collected is important. You will learn how the ways in which data are collected can affect the quality of the interference you can make.
All right. So when we look at this, it kind of goes back to what I was talking about data that is biased and data that is not biased. And we're going to learn about that. Okay. So let's take a look at this. Would you read that for us, please, Miss Haley?
I'm trying to pull it up on my screen because it's super tiny on the
Okay.
where you're presenting it.
Let me see if I can make it a little larger. Does that help?
It's still like just a whole bunch of stuff put together.
I got you. What about that?
That's good. Okay. The local school board has purchased a vacant lot next to the Hillcrest Middle School. It is trying to decide how to use the land. The tennis team wants to build an outdoor tennis court. The student council wants to build a multi-purpose track that can be used for running and inline skating. The school board asks for recommendations from the school principal. The principal gives an assignment to the student groups. Find out how much use each choice will get per week and present evidence to support your choice.
All right. So looking at this, what do you think you would use the most, Haley?
Probably the tennis court.
The tennis court? What do you think, Zayden? What would you use the most?
The track.
The track? What about you, Eli?
The tennis court.
What about you, Sarah?
The tennis court too.
Chris, what do you think? Chris doesn't have an idea yet. He's still thinking. All right. So, how many hours per week would they use a tennis court, do you think? How many, those of you that said that you would, you'd want to be on the tennis court, how many hours per week would you want to use that? I had like 3 people, Sarah, Eli, Haley. Y'all all told me you wanted to use the tennis court. What do y'all think? How many hours would you want to spend out there a week?
Probably like 4 hours for me.
Okay. What do you think, Haley?
For the whole week, I'd do 10, like 2 for 5 days.
I got you. Sarah, what do you think?
2 hours.
Okay. So, Zayden, how many hours do you think you would use that track, the multi-purpose track, for like skating or running?
All day.
All day. You'd just be out there all the time. Okay. That works. So let's look at this. Najela, will you read that for us?
To prove that a multi-purpose track would get a lot of use, the student council decides to conduct a student survey. This school has 900 students, so there's no time to ask every student in their school. Instead of the council members ask a sample of the school students. A sample is a smaller group that represents the whole group or population. Play the animation to see how the council members decide to take their sample.
All right, and it says, what are some ways the student council could select students for their survey? All right, so I want you to think about how the student council could collect a simple random sample. What do you think they could do?
Pick random students and ask them.
All right, do you think they should pick them all in one grade, or they should ask like multiple grades?
Multiple grades.
Should they just ask like track students and athletes, or should they ask like people that also like to play, video games and stuff like that also?
They should ask everybody.
So kind of like all types of different people, right? Because if you just ask people that run the track, would that be good data to know?
No.
Not really, because wouldn't that skew your data to make you believe that people are going to want to use it a lot more often? Or like if you just ask tennis players, wouldn't it make it where it looks like it'd be used a lot more than what it actually would be?
Yes.
Okay. So read this for us, please, Jemiah. Lainey, can you help her out? Can you read that for us, please, ma'am?
The one in the blue.
Yes, ma'am.
One easy method would be to sample the first 50 students who arrive at a school. Methods are chosen because they are easy, are called convenient samples. Convenient samples may have been based
Bias.
biased. The first students at school would be the tennis team arriving for early practice.
Yeah. So would that be a good sample to get?
Yes.
You think so? Would it?
Yes.
You don't think it would be a little biased towards just the tennis players, since the tennis team gets there early?
Yeah, it would.
Yeah, it would, wouldn't it? So a convenience sample is convenient for us to do, but is it really going to be accurate?
No.
Probably not, because, if somebody's getting there early for practice, then that's going to be the first 50 people you see. So it's going to look like more people are interested in something than the other people, right? It's kind of like we used to do what was like first priority, where people would go and they would say a prayer at the beginning of school. And so, like if somebody was asking, do you think it's okay to have prayer in school? And, you asked the first 50 people on the day that all of the first priority students would come to say their prayer, wouldn't that look like everybody thought it was okay?
Yes.
Yeah, I think so.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. All right, well, let's keep going. What's that say for us, Layla Gibb?
Suppose the group went to a seventh grade English class and asked the students how many hours per week they used to track. This might be a good sample of the seventh grade, but it leaves out all the other grades. This is also considered a biased sample because it does not represent the entire population of the school.
Yeah, and that's kind of what we talked about earlier, isn't it? If we just asked one grade and they were only in one class, is that going to be a good sample?
No.
No, not really. And so anytime we do this, what's that called?
A bias sample.
Yes, right.
Bias.
A bias sample. Abigail, can you read this for us?
Okay, so it says to make sure that the sample represents the population, the council members decide to put the names of the 900 students in a bowl and draw out some of the names. They will ask students whose names are drawn how many hours per week would they use a multi-purpose track.
All right. Do y'all think that this would be a good sample, or do you think this would be biased?
It's a good sample.
A good sample.
I-
Good sample.
I think so too. It's completely random, right? And if it's completely random, can it be biased?
No.
No, it can't, because it's completely random. It is dealing with all of the students at the school. So therefore, this would be a good way to collect a sample. And so that actually would have helped you answer question 2 in your workbook. What did question 2 say?
Give examples of the following the following terms. You may use the context of the Hillcrest Middle School's survey for use of the multi-purpose track and tennis court.
All right, so what did you put for your answer there?
Nothing. I didn't know how to answer.
All right, so let's restate it one more time.
Give examples of how the following terms you may use the context of the Hillcrest Middle School survey for use of the multi-purpose track and tennis court.
All right, what did anybody put there? Did anybody answer that question in their workbook? It doesn't sound like it. Did anybody try it? Attempt it? All right, well, that means that we need to take a look at it, doesn't it? Or y'all don't think so?
No, we do.
Yeah, I think we do. All right, so give examples of the following terms you may use the context of the Hillcrest Middle School survey for the use of the multi-purpose track and tennis courts. All right, so in the context of the Hillcrest Middle School survey, all 900 students are the what?
Population.
The population. So the word there would be population for A. So in the context of the Hillcrest Middle School survey, all 900 students are the population. So when it asks, what is the sample on part B? What is the sample?
The random students they drew.
Correct. And they drew a smaller group of how many students?
50.
Was it 50 or was it 30? I don't remember what it was. Let's go look. Oh my goodness. We had a glitch. Now I can't type. It's going to be all right. There we go. Now we're back. It just said they'd draw some names, right? So the way that Emma said it makes sense. She said that in the context of the Hillcrest Middle School survey, what'd you say?
The random students they drew.
Yes, the random students that they drew makes up the smaller group. And that smaller group of random students is called what?
A sample.
A sample.
A sample.
All right. What was a convenience sample? Like when we were looking at the Hillcrest Middle School survey, what was the convenience sample?
The first 50 students who came to school.
That's right. That was a convenience sample. So looking at the context of the Hillcrest Middle School survey, what was a bias sample?
The English class.
Correct, because it just was dealing with just those kids in the English class and they were only in one grade, right?
Yes.
And so what ended up being a simple random sample?
The fishbowl.
Yeah, the fishbowl. When they put all 900 students in there and they picked out a certain number of random ones, right? And I think Najela was correct. When we get to page number 3, it's going to show how many names they drew. Najela, how many names did they draw?
50.
50. And look right there. It says when they do this sample of 50 students is called a what?
simple random sample.
That's right. That's right. What's it? So go ahead and read this for us, Najayla. Will you read that whole thing?
As you saw in the previous animation, the student council members drew 50 names at random from all 900 student names. This sample of 50 students is called a simple random sample. Drawing a name at random means that each member of the population is equally likely to be selected. A simple random sample reduces bias and helps make sure that the sample is representative of the student population. How will the council members decide if 50 students is a large enough sample to be representative? One consideration is the mean of the data. The mean is the average of all the values in the sample. As they include more people in the sample, does the center change? A representative sample will have a mean that is stable, meaning it does not change how much when you add more values to the sample.
All right. So with this information, what we're going to do is kind of look at it and just see how close this data, is actually being with multiple students. Okay. So looking at this, does the data in this list vary a lot? What do you think?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty. I mean it's going up and down a good bit. I mean you got some zeros, you got some 12s, you got some fours, some threes. It's kind of all over the place, right? So
Yeah.
how do you think we could estimate the median, like the center, and the mean, like the balance point of all this data? What do you think we could do? Does anybody remember how to
Maybe
find the median?
Add them all together and divide them by the total amount of
That'll
numbers.
get you your mean. All right, that's good. So that would give us our average. Anybody remember how to get the median? Somebody look that up real quick. How do you get the median? What do? You have to do something with all those numbers. I know median sounds like a word
You add them.
that we know. Look at it close. We're not going to add them.
You put them in numerical order, count the numbers you have, and if you had an odd number, divide by 2 and round up to get the position of the median number. If you have an even number, divide by 2, go to the number that position and average it with the number the next higher position to get the median.
All right, good. So if you got an odd number, all you have to do is find the number that's in the middle. So median, I want you to think middle. All right. If you have an even number, then you have to get the two numbers that are together in the middle. You add them together and you divide them by 2 to figure out what your median would be. So it's kind of like taking a little average. All right. So we have to answer on question 3. What is a statistical sample? So after studying this student survey example that we're looking at, I want you to write a definition that communicates precisely what it means to sample a population when collecting data to answer a statistical question. So to help you, since we're looking for a statistical sample. Goodness gracious, what a tongue twister. Um, what do you think that type of sample allows you to do? What does a statistical sample allow you to do? What did we do today? What did they have to do? What did they do first? What were they trying to do to figure out about the track. How many people would use that multi-purpose track? What did they do?
Try to see how many people would use it.
Correct. They were trying to see how many people would use it. And so to do that, they had to do what?
A simple random sample.
Correct. And so to do that, they had to gather data. And once they gathered that data, they were able to study the what? What were they able to do with the 30 random people's information? What can they use that for?
To make a decision.
To make a decision. And they're going to have to base it off of what?
The data.
The data. And so what you're doing is you're taking the average or the mean of all this information and you're applying it to the whole student body to determine how often that's going to be used. So, I want you to use your own answer, but here's what I mean, if I'm looking at it in my perspective, like a statistical sample allows us to gather data to study a larger population. And so, with that being said, I want you to include some examples of different types of sampling methods you could use to gather data to study a larger population. So, that's what I want you to do for question number 3. And so, to conclude this lesson, I'm going to end with a higher order thinking STEM, which would be, suppose that you want to determine the favorite school subject of the 7th grade students. How might you sample the whole 7th grade without being biased? What could you do?
Drop them a fishbowl.
Yeah, the fishbowl would work perfect, wouldn't it? Because if we do that, aren't we getting random data? And
Yes.
all right.
Yes.
Would that be a statistical sample that we could use to gather data to be able to answer for the entire population?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it would be very close. So that is actually going to conclude our lesson today. I do want you to answer more practice questions, 1 through 5, in your Agile mind. And we're also going to spend some time on our UpSmart Math and our UpSmart ELA to end our class today. So that's it for my video.